Hey everyone, I'm Case Aiken. Now, last week I talked about the times that the classic love interest of Superman, Lois Lane, had become a superwoman. But pretty infamously, Superman has been known for having a complicated love life. And if there's one character that truly rivals Lois Lane, it's Lana Lang. And like Lois, she's plenty of times gotten superpowers, and often has served really well as a Superman analog. So let's take a moment to discuss this character. Unlike Lois, who harkens back to the earliest days of the Superman comics, going back all the way to Action Comics #1, Lana is a character who owes her origins to the ever-expanding universe of Superman, specifically his career as a boy. Lana is one of those characters that straddles the line between the Gold and Silver Age. She was introduced in 1950 as part of the Superboy series, and thus predates Barry Allen's first appearance as the Flash, which is usually considered the starting point for the Silver Age comics. But due to Superman's adventures as Superboy generally being associated with his Silver Age persona, even though they predate the concept of the Silver Age of comics, she often gets lumped into that time period. When she was initially introduced, she was created to be a stand-in for Lois Lane in these adventures. She was Superboy's love interest, the same way that Lois was Superman's love interest. But in this case, these were the adventures of a young boy living in a small town in the middle of nowhere. Then, over time, she was introduced into his adult adventures, creating a dynamic where she and Lois were direct rivals for one another. And the fandom was split, owing to the fact that Lois was the older character, but Lana was established as the love of Clark's youth. Stories often showed how Clark wrestled with his affections for both characters. And it makes sense, because in a lot of ways, the two were very similar. As adults, they would both go on to be reporters, and in their youth, Lana had plenty of adventures like Lois where she got superpowers. Outside of the times where she just became a straight-up superwoman type character, whether or not she actually used the name, her perhaps most infamous role was as the Insect Queen, where she gained the abilities to emulate various insectoid powers. And in the classic story, Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow, it was Lana who took it upon herself to gain superpowers to make a stand against Brainiac and the Legion of Supervillains, one that would cost her her life. But as Superman moved past the Bronze Age and into the post-crisis era of the character, Lana was recoded from being a coworker and object of his affection to being a past love and a childhood friend who he could trust with his secrets. This attempt to recontextualize the character is due to the fact that, as I said, Lana was introduced to be a stand-in for Lois in a setting that didn't have Lois. But she had become so important to the mythology that it was awkward to omit her, even if the desire was to streamline the narrative. So since the 80s, we've seen multiple attempts to redefine her, while at the same time staying true to the base character. Compare with Superman 3, where she was basically introduced to be a replacement for Margot Kidder's Lois Lane, or in the Superboy show, where she acted in her classic role as a Lois stand-in, versus as new properties were introduced, such as the Superman animated series, or Smallville, or recently with Superman and Lois. Lana is often defined by how she is different from Lois, but that doesn't remove her importance from the Superman lore. She continues to be an important character in Superman's life, usually knowing his secret identity and acting as confidant for both Superman and Lois. And notably, in the Rebirth era, when they actually launched a formal Superwoman book, they set up a bait and switch where we thought it was going to be about Lois Lane, but by the end of the first issue, we realized that the book was actually about Lana Lang, wielding the powers of the energy form of Superman. This version of Lana had more of a scientific background, so it became an excellent excuse to explore those energy powers through a scientific lens. This version of Lana also got to have a wonderful relationship with John Henry Irons, aka Steel, which, as far as consolation prizes go for dating Superman, John Henry Irons is a pretty good one. The man is a literal Adonis and rocket scientist, and is repeatedly described as just the nicest guy, with a voice that's somewhere between Darth Vader and Worf. The Rebirth era Superwoman series is notable for a bunch of reasons. It's well loved, it features tons of twists and turns, it had engaging characters in a really optimistic time for DC Comics, and, more than anything, it was the first, and at this point only book actually titled Superwoman. And in that book, it was Lana Lang. So while she may be best remembered as a young Clark Kent's childhood crush, Lana Lang will always hold a place in history as Superwoman. But next time, we're going to talk about another time that DC tried to have a female superhero wielding the energy form powers of the 90s Superman. But until then, stay super, man. Hey everyone, I just want to thank you all for watching these videos. It's really meant a lot to me to have an audience for my just gushing about cool comic book stuff. This one's going up a little bit late, and next week's is going to probably be a little on the short side, and that is because my very pregnant wife is having our baby tonight. Everything's good, everyone's in good health, but we're a little bit older, so they wanted to induce her just to make sure it doesn't go past the due date. So everything's good. I'm really thankful for you all. I hope that I'll be talking to you soon in very good spirits, but I'm pretty sure I'll be very tired, and I'm sorry for any issues that may cause in our production cycle here. But you should check out all the other stuff that we're working on at Certain POV. There's a ton of great stuff over at our website, certainpov.com, tons of great shows, and links to all the cool stuff that we've got going on outside of that. So please check all that out. Check out our Discord server where you can come and interact with us directly. But otherwise, just have a great week.